I did start webinar. Hello. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to wait a few minutes to have people join us. So they're still logging in. I'm Tina Hills, and we will be getting with you in just a few minutes. Hope everybody's doing well. It's still a little chilly for April. I heard snow this weekend and rain, which is crazy. I suppose New England though, and it'll be 70, by the end of the week. So hopefully. We're going to give it another minute or two. We have a few registrants still need to log on, and then we'll get started. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time, so we're going to start going. Again, my name is Tina Hills. I'm the Assistant Director of Admission at Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, and I'm the admission counselor for our Master of Science in Occupational Therapy program. I'm saying that a lot. Thank you for joining us. This webinar will be recorded. We can send out, if for any reason you get logged out, before the end, we can send an email with the recording later in the week. I'd now like to start with some introductions. I'm going to lead it off with Professor Dowling.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Dowling. I teach on the Worcester campus in the Occupational Therapy program. I teach evidence-based practice, environments and technology, vision cognition, and adult rehab. I look forward to hopefully getting to meet all of you.
Wonderful.
I'll pass it on to Colleen.
Yes, we have some great OT ambassador students with us this evening. Colleen, why don't you introduce yourself, let them know what year you are and where you studied prior.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Colleen McGinnis. I'm a first-year OT student on the Worcester campus, and I graduated from Stonehill College in 2020 with my bachelor's degree in psychology.
Kelly?
Hi, my name's Kelly Lum. I am also a first-year student on the Worcester campus, and I went to MCPHS in Boston studying health psychology.
Hi, my name is Sawyer Storsley. I am also a first-year student, but I am on the Manchester campus, and I graduated from Pacific Lutheran University in Washington State with a degree in biochem in 2023.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. During this webinar, we're going to talk about the program, how to apply, and we'll end with a Q&A with any questions anyone might have. So we are going to get started. I'm going to share my screen, so give me one moment. I always love the technology portion of the program. Everybody see my screen? Great. First off, so excited that everyone has decided to pursue a career in healthcare. It is a great field, especially occupational therapy, in high demand. It's actually one of the top 4 healthcare jobs right now that people are looking into, and there's a projected 11% growth by 2033. So as a future OT applicant, you will be in with high demand with finding jobs after graduation. Some of our alums received job offers right before they graduated or shortly thereafter. And that we'll get into a little bit later, but that also has a lot to do with the reputation of the university. We realize that the program and returning to school for your degree is an investment, but if you look at our accelerated program in just 24 months and the ROI that you will have between the quality of the education and how prepared you are and the reputation of the school, it will pay dividends for you in the long run. It's a strong investment in your future. So a little bit about Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences for those that don't know about us. We have actually been around for 200 years, and we started off as a pharmacy school. We offer 100 different programs in various fields, but we are a healthcare specific university. It's all we do. Our faculty are experienced in healthcare. Our job is to stay ahead in innovation and research. We have 7,000 students between our three campuses, Boston, Manchester, Worcester, and online. It's a wonderful place to be. Our faculty are up to date. Most of them are still practicing clinicians, and we have long legacy and reputation with some of the strongest affiliations, such as Elliott Hospital, St. Vincent, Northeast Rehab, Encompass Rehab, Reliant, UMass Memorial, just St. Vincent's right down the street. So just to name a few of the hospitals that we're affiliated with. So one of the biggest things I think, and that I really appreciate about the university, is the commitment to student success. And that comes in all shapes and forms. They are very hands-on with services, just university-wide, whether that's career services, whether that's student services, if you our Student Center for Academic Success and Achievement, whether you're struggling, peer mentors, the faculty. I think that is one of our biggest differentiators, is that individualized education. You are not a number, especially in the OT program. They get to know you, they get to know your challenges, your likes, your dislikes, and they are there and your biggest cheerleaders to support you. And I think that that's one of the things that sets us apart. We also have something called interprofessional education. I'm going to talk a little bit about this and then hand it over to Colleen to kind of talk a little bit more. But this is an integral part of healthcare and a mission of the university. So as an OT professional, you will need to be able to speak to a nurse or a PA or an optometrist to give the best care to your patient or client. That is something you have to understand. What does a pharmacist do and what type of medications and how do you engage with them? At MCPHS, we're committed to that. And we are making sure you understand how to collaborate with different professions. And that is something really important. So Colleen, do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a first-year student, you're going to participate in 3 different IPE events. The first one is in your very first semester, and that is where you will join a group of students from other disciplines. You'll be given case studies, and you'll each kind of talk about what your profession would kind of bring to the table or how you would assist this person. And you really get to learn what some of the other professions do, and you also get to explain to them a bit about what OT is. You probably will get the question, what is the difference between OT and PT? So we are very well prepared to give our elevator pitch on OT by that point. Your professors prepare you very well for this event. And then your second one will be in your second semester, which we just completed a couple weeks ago. And for that one, you read a book called Medicine in Translation. And then the event is talking about cultural humility and how each profession can provide the most culturally competent care to any individual that we may work with. And then we'll be completing our third this summer, which I believe is about the opioid epidemic.
Great. Thank you. Do either one of Kelly or Sawyer, do you have anything to add about your IP experience?
I would say it's just really interesting and eye-opening getting to talk to other people from different professions because we don't always get to do that. So, like learning about their perspectives, like I really like that.
And it's a great networking opportunity. Don't forget, a lot of these students will be in the workforce at some point. They may know someone, they may be at job placement and, you know, are ahead of you and in terms of graduation. So it's also a wonderful networking opportunity for students. And then most important, I think one of the great things is our student life. Yes, we are a graduate school. However, there are a lot of things to do on both campuses in Manchester and in Worcester. You have student club organizations, you have professional organizations, you have social events, like there's a gala tomorrow night in the Manchester campus. Actually, they have Pyre Professor. There's so many opportunities. I know they did a Galentine's event, you know, in February. So there's so many things to do that make it a really tight-knit community on both campuses. And I think that as you don't always get that with a graduate program, and I think that's really important. We also have OT specific organizations, and one is SOTA, and that's Student Occupational Therapy Association, and the other one is COTAD, which is the Coalition of Occupational Therapy Advocates for Diversity. Both are very important organizations with our students and very active. I'm assuming Kelly or Colleen, you're involved in those organizations? Yeah. Are you doing anything fun coming up?
For soda, since this month is OT month, we have tabling events each week down in the lobby for other people to get to learn more about what we do in OT. And then at the end of the month before finals, Professor Dowling's hosting a yoga like session for us. It's open to the whole school, just to de-stress before finals.
That's wonderful. And last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention in our student success services that we do have an Office of Student Access and Accommodations for those students who might have a 504 IEP. We certainly look at that and make sure that we are inclusive. So we're talking a little bit about both campuses. So we're going to start with our Manchester campus. Our Manchester campus is the smallest of our three campuses, but that does not mean it doesn't lack in its exciting and opportunities. It is small but mighty. We happen to be on the Manchester and the Worcester campuses, and both have a lot of pros to them. Manchester is, about an hour or so from Boston. It is an hour from the coast and an hour from the White Mountains. So it is wonderfully located, especially if you're an outdoors person. There's hiking, kayaking, snowboarding, and so many things to do in the area or there shortly around there. Manchester itself is a vibrant city. It's a safe city. You have the opportunity to go down to sports, to concert venues. There's theaters, there's just a lot of things to do for students and for sightseeing. So we actually, wonderful campus. There's not housing on our Manchester campus, but there is a lot of opportunities. I know Sawyer lives right down the street from the Manchester campus, and she had mentioned that it was pretty easy to go on Zillow. Did you go to Zillow or Apartments for Rent to find your housing?
Yeah, I was able to find an apartment pretty easily through Zillow and apartments.com. I think I found this one on Zillow, but there's so many options on both Zillow and apartments.com. The same as pretty much anywhere. I've mentioned to a couple people that relative to like Boston or Seattle or like major cities, like the cost of housing is definitely much cheaper in Manchester than major cities. It's not saying like housing is affordable, it's not. But it is much cheaper in Manchester than in big cities. And most of the apartments in Manchester, you don't have to pay for parking, which is a really big plus to the housing here.
And we do have parking on campus for a fee, and it's pretty affordable though. The Manchester program, campus, excuse me, is home to 4 programs and graduate programs. And there's probably a little less than 400 students. So it's, again, tight-knit, very strong sense of community there. But it's very active with its social organizations that we kind of mentioned about prior. Next is our Worcester campus. This is our second largest campus. Worcester is the second largest city in Massachusetts, and that it's also about an hour drive-ish to Boston, but we also have transportation to go right into Boston, so that's nice. So if students wanted to kind of take a field trip to Boston, that's great. There's a lot of clinical opportunities right in our doorstep at Worcester, such as our field work. So we have at UMass Memorial, St. Vincent's, same thing with Manchester as well. There's Polar Park right down the street. There's theaters. There's a lot of restaurants and bars for students to kind of have, that student experience as well. The other thing is that there's 9 programs, so it is a little bit larger. And then we actually have 2 campuses in our Worcester location. The biggest difference is we have housing in Worcester. So if you're interested in housing, there are several options to choose from when you get to that point. There's studios, there's suites, there's dorms. They're all within walking distance. We also have right literally on campus. I'm going to let Colleen kind of talk about her housing. I know she lives on campus.
Yeah, definitely. So I live in a 2-bedroom apartment on Salisbury Street, which is about 5 to 10 minute walk, depending on when I hit the crosswalks, if I get them at the right time. I really enjoy living here. We've got our parking right in back, which is really convenient. Like I said, just a very quick walk. I also have a lot of friends who live in this building who are also in the OT program, so that's really nice as well for late night study sessions or dancing with the stars nights. Just being able to walk right downstairs is really nice. It's also really close to a lot of things, 2-minute drive to Dunkin' or the grocery store, CVS, all of that is really close by. So it's definitely very centrally located, very safe area, and a very safe building as well, which I really appreciate because I did not grow up in a city.
Great. Kelly, are you a commuter or do you live on campus?
Yeah, I live on campus at 25 Foster, which is the other side of the campus from where the OT classes are, but it's about like a 10-minute walk, so still pretty close. And this building has classrooms underneath it, so it's like the top, I think 4 to 9 floors are dorms or like
Oh, nice
apartment
view.
style dorms. And it also has a library here to study, gym, laundry's in the basement. Yeah, a lot of study spaces.
One of the things too that is convenient, and not a lot of graduate programs offer housing, so I think that's definitely a plus. All the units are fully furnished, utilities are included, and your rent would be charged once a semester to your account, so it's rolled in, so you don't have to think about that. And as Colleen and Kelly both mentioned, there is parking available, so that's nice. So a little bit about the program, what you've been waiting for. It is a fall start. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's a 24-month accelerated year-round program. This means that you're going fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, summer, and then you graduate. You will have a level 1 fieldwork experience in your didactic semesters, and then your final 2 semesters, you're doing your level 2 fieldwork. You'd be doing this full time, which is great. And then you would be taking an online class when you're doing that full time field work. The second semester, and I don't want to talk too much because Professor Dowling will get into more detail, but your second semester, you will begin your labs. Your first semester is all didactic classwork, and you preparing for your community health setting, which I think is so incredible that that is how you start off with your field work, because it's just a wonderful foundation. You, in your level 2 field works, you will be doing a pediatric and an adult rotation as well. And the class size, we can have 45 in each cohort. So what makes our program unique? I'd like to now turn it over to Professor Dowling to kind of talk about that.
Absolutely. So at MCPHS, we have several themes that are tied and networked through the curriculum, which makes our program unique from many others. So the first semester, you start with your mental health and wellness classes, and you may not be aware that OT originally began in mental health, and we unfortunately moved away from that for some time, but now we're moving back towards understanding and appreciating the mental health needs of the population. So we became more of a medical model, and now we're really going back to our roots. So as a newer program, we're able to really incorporate a much stronger focus on this area. And as you move through the curriculum, you'll notice that there's an emphasis on mental health and well-being that's woven throughout. Everything we teach, we will be talking about this very important component. The next thread is research and scholarship. So we also feel very strongly about evidence-based practice, which is the first course you'll take with me. And for this reason, a research course is offered at every semester during your didactic portion of the program. And it gives students opportunities to learn how to incorporate research into their level 2 fieldworks, regardless of the setting you're in. So outside of the classroom, we'll host the New Hampshire Occupational Therapy Association Conference, which I'm actively involved in. And our second year students in Manchester may be attending that in the fall. And additionally, our Worcester students can present their research poster in Massachusetts at that state conference. And we support and help our students journey through those experiences. These are great events for students to learn about evidence-based practice and network with other clinicians. And I'm proud to say that 4 of our students in Worcester actually went to the national conference in Philadelphia. They just returned from that. The third semester, we use this model of clinic as the classroom, classroom as the clinic, so that you're not just learning about the content, you're practicing and applying what you've learned throughout that third thread that I'm describing. So we have really fantastic classroom spaces that are designed to mirror real clinics. Our adult labs are equipped with full kitchens, bathrooms, various adaptive equipment. We have the pediatric labs and lots of sensory integration equipment that you can see typically in a gym that you would work at, with swings and all sorts of toys and fun tools, because the thing that children do occupation wise is play. So we try and make sure you have all of that equipment. We also incorporate technology into our courses, such as virtual reality and this device called the BINS, which we use for our neuro population, people who have maybe had strokes. The classes are very engaging, as you can tell, and interactive overall. We don't want you just sitting there listening to us. We want your time filled with small and large group activities. We'll do games, Kahoots, guest lectures, and it's very rare, hopefully, that the professor is just lecturing at you for the full class. Hopefully, you're working in your groups and enjoying other kinetic experiences. So as Tina mentioned, several of the faculty are leaders in the community and or still practicing. So faculty are involved in research as well. Our director is conducting research on the use of virtual reality in rehab, and also researches the effects of mindfulness. Some of our faculty are working with optometrists to conduct research about low vision and the low vision community. One of our faculty members is working with a local university to develop a suicide prevention program. And another faculty member is working with the Children's Hospital to conduct research on pediatric chronic pain management. So quite a variety of research being done by our professors. I presented in Kansas City last year at the AOTA, and this year we had Dr. Amaro presenting at the Philly AOTA conference. So we're getting out there and sharing our research on the national level. In addition, one of the faculty in Manchester is the president of NHOTA, and I am the representative for the RA Assembly nationally for the state of New Hampshire. So I teach in Worcester, but I do reside in New Hampshire, which gives me connection to both communities and definitely helps us understand the populations that we serve. So when it comes to population and community connections and field work, we want to make our program unique with those community connections. So we have really great relationships with our surrounding communities. And this means that students now have lots of opportunities for hands-on learning based on the connections we've cultivated and have established. We have sites in Manchester and Worcester that we work with regularly for our level 1 and certainly level 2 fieldwork rotations. And lastly, those community connections really help our students become prepared for that big level 2 fieldwork rotation. Level 1 fieldwork rotations correspond with your didactic work and focus on each of the semesters and the content that you're learning. So we're going to learn information, and then you're going to go out and also observe it and practice in your level 1 fieldwork experience. Does any students want to add anything to what I just said? Little bit of level 1 they're finishing off, so I'm sure that they're very excited for that. Colleen, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about, so Kelly and I know both actually had our last day of our first level 1 field work today. I will say you go into it very prepared. So you spend your first semester developing and working with this group that you're going to be taking into Seven Hills with you, developing your plans to work with this population of people, and then able to go and implement it while still under the supervision of a professor and having your classmates alongside of you. So you feel very supported and very ready to be going into this experience. And now that we're getting ready to kind of go off on our own a little bit more with working with a fieldwork educator within a specific site. For instance, I'm going to be going to an outpatient orthopedic center in the summer. It's a little nerve-wracking to be going without my team, but it's also very exciting to have built that kind of base of knowledge and now going forward kind of on my own for this next one.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. I mean, Colleen, Kelly or Sawyer, do you have anything else to add about your field work, or we can move on?
I can talk a little bit. I still have 2 more weeks left of my field work, but it's going really well. I am at a residential mental health facility. We're working with people that have severe mental health disorders, and we're doing a craft group, and you really get to know your participants well. So we started out not doing crafts, and we found out over the course of 10 weeks that they love crafts. And so we completely changed our group, and it's really cool, like seeing that process and just like getting to know them and getting to like completely cater something for this group of people that meets their needs and can help them reach their goals and things that like they want to do. So it's been like overall like a really great experience.
Oh, thank you.
It's always good to hear what the students feel their fieldwork experiences have been like, because I can say how wonderful the program is, but hopefully, knowing you're feeling prepared is definitely very helpful. So let's go through an overview of the curriculum. We try to, like I said, themes and threads of research in mental health and community involvement. So in the first semester, you're really focusing on mental health, and it's a very mental health oriented semester. And again, this will stay threaded throughout the program. In the second semester, we're focusing mainly on physical disabilities and rehabilitation. You're going to learn about adaptive equipment and assistive devices and how to conduct evaluations and plan interventions for individuals with these disorders, including sensory motor impairments. The third semester pulls in neuroscience and adult rehab with upper extremity injuries, including stroke, spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury. The fourth semester is when you'll start to take your pediatric courses, and you'll also have some specialty courses such as cognition and vision and program development and owning a business. The fifth and sixth semesters are where you're going to go out into the community in your level 2 fieldwork rotations. And I do want to point out that during your fieldwork, you will also be taking online courses, which are really geared towards helping you transition out of that student role and into a professional role. So these courses focus on things like organizing the documentation needed to register for the boards, obtaining licenses, and building your resume, and joining student organizations like your professors do. You'll also notice level 1 and 2 field work, which are indicated by the stars. These are important. The purpose of level 1 field work is to really introduce you, like Colleen said and Sawyer said, to the different practice settings, and they occur in conjunction with that didactic work. So we're preparing you to get out there and build that confidence. So it might be a full 2-week experience or once or twice a week over the 15-week semester. It depends what that level 1 community center needs. And those rotations, they don't have a lot of hands-on. There's mostly observation, but boy, I have watched our students do some amazing work in their groups. So I would say you've got a beautiful balance of implementing what you learn in your didactic experience. So you will be leading groups, and they'll be there. We will be there to help support you. In the level 2 experience, this is a 12-week experience where you're working full time, following the schedule of your supervisor. And that may vary in different settings. So you might be doing 4 10-hour days or 5 8-hour days. You might be working on the weekend or the evenings, depending on what that full-time work looks like with your supervisor. You will have one rotation, which will be in pediatrics, and the other will be working in the adult setting. And this is what you will find across the schools because it is mandatory by what's called ACOTE. That's our accrediting body that guides us as to the delivery of your didactic and fieldwork experience. So we have flexibility in terms of location for level 2 settings, and many students might stay in New England, but we've got students traveling to California, Texas, Florida. They might want to be closer to their family and friends. And we have fieldwork coordinators on both campuses that will help you with this process.
Great. Colleen, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe with your didactic, your first semester, what was one of the highlights of a course that you were in? Maybe your favorite course?
Evidence-based practice, of course.
Hint, hint.
All-time favorite. No, I did really enjoy that course. It was something very different for me that I was not used to. I will say something for me that I think I really connected with was the mental health course. Being a psychology major, it was really nice to kind of bring that previous knowledge that I had into this new setting and kind of view it in a different way and view it from this lens of I can help in this from this OT perspective, having just spent 4 years learning it from the psychology perspective. So I'd say that was probably my favorite course so far.
Kelly, what about you? And is there actually a takeaway from your fieldwork experience so far that you want to share?
Yeah, I'll talk about fieldwork first. Like
Yeah.
Colleen said, today was my last one, and you really get to know your participants well. So it was a very bittersweet moment. We got a little emotional, but it was really fun getting to work with a team to implement the plan that we had made in our first semester and see it come to life and to see the improvement that our participants made. So that's why I would say for the first semester, my favorite was the therapeutic groups class because we got to get to know the people that we were working with and then creating this plan. And then also the second part of that semester, we did student-led groups, which was really fun. So we got to like practice on our classmates how we would run a group. So it was more like low stakes before actually going out into our first level 1.
Great. Sawyer, what's the highlight of your first semester?
I think the other day I said my favorite class was motor, but I'm gonna change it. I think it was actually mental health.
Yeah.
For kind of similar reasons, I minored in psych, and I think I just am really drawn to mental health and psychology. Um, and it's been really interesting seeing how mental health is applied to almost all of our classes, and how it just like carries on throughout our second semester as well.
Great answer. Thank you.
So as you can see, the students have pulled from their first experiences in their level ones, and this helps them make some choices for their rotations for their level twos. And the fieldwork staff are definitely try to be as helpful as possible to get you into the level twos that have meaningful experiences for you. So within those level two experiences, which are 12 weeks long, by week 6, you're pretty much an independent therapist doing that caseload that your supervisor has. And by week 10, you're fully autonomous. And your supervisor is kind of just checking in on you so that by week 12 on those level twos, you've really been able to grow into an autonomous therapist after your experiences.
It's crazy. So we have been talking about all the wonderful things about the OT program, but I think that, it's really about the outcomes, right? We are very proud that we have such a strong track record of our outcomes. I mentioned earlier that students upon graduation, it's true, we had an alum who had been messaging with one of our faculty members because she was so excited that her first placement loved her and she loved it, that they ended up offering her a job when she graduated. And that's not obviously always the case, but if there's an opening and there's that connection, there's that opportunity. So you will be prepared not only to go into the workforce, but you're going to develop connections to go into that specialization that you may be looking for. I have a student right now, and who, funny enough, didn't think she wanted to do anything pediatric or anything in a school, and is now in a school, loves it, and thinks that's what she wants to do now. So you going in with an open mind and just kind of seeing what works for you and doesn't, you will keep that open mind, you will surprise yourself on how you want to move forward. Our graduation rates, 100%. We have opportunities for you for career services. Our faculty are well connected, and you are prepared for the boards. There, we partner with an outside organization so that you are prepped. You will be studying for that. They will give you time for. So there's something that's really important to us to make sure you are as well prepared so that you can go into the field successfully and ready to take on the world. Do you want to talk about, Professor Dowling, kind of where some of our graduates go after graduation?
Sure can. They're doing great things, and I've heard several of our students have secured jobs from their level twos. So that is definitely trending nicely. They are very prepared. And after graduation, many students typically work in inpatient and outpatient hospital clinics. Some choose to go to school systems, home health, community-based programs. As the field of OT continues to grow, the OTs find themselves getting involved in many different non-traditional areas of practice, such as driving rehabilitation, ergonomics, home and community redesign, outdoor and hippotherapy, and development of robotics and virtual reality. So we're definitely expanding the landscape of where OT can help people function better.
Yeah, I love that you could be in a pediatric setting and you're taking styrofoam and some construction paper and figuring out how to make an adaptive piece of equipment. And then the next thing you know, you're using the 3D printer to create something such as a splint. And Professor Dowling's actually helping pave the way at MCPA just for that. So that's really exciting things, not just for the OT community, but from CPHS and kind of beyond. So we're always kind of forward thinking, but having that foundation where if you're sitting in a classroom, what can you use to engage your students? So that's really great stuff. So now we've kind of gone over our program, applying. So we use something called the OTCAS. Kind of think of it as your Common App when you were an undergrad. It's a centralized application system. We have rolling admissions. You can only apply to one campus. And I know we get this question a lot where which campus should I apply to, or can I apply to both, or which chance do I have a better chance getting into? The programs are exactly the same, as we've kind of mentioned, on both campuses, the same accreditation. You can only apply to one campus though. When you're applying, you are going to apply through the OTCAS, as I mentioned. This is going to include a personal statement where you're going to talk about why the OT field. Why do you have a commitment to OT? What was your experience to want you to be an OT? And really talk a little bit about that. We want to see as an admission committee, what is that desire and that impact that you want to make in the OT field. A resume if you have it, but not required. Your transcripts. So the fun thing about OTCAS is that you do submit your transcripts, but you also have to manually enter them along with your prerequisites. Your prerequisites, I'll get into them in a minute, but then you will match those up with what fulfills our prerequisites. You need 3 letters of recommendation that's required. I need to change that. You could submit, and why it says is 2 to 3, is OTCAS will send your application to MCPHS with 2 completed letters of recommendation, but we require 3, so we do need that third, and that can be an academic or professional recommendation. And finally, we do look for a 3.0 GPA. So once you've submitted everything, OTCAS will then verify. They'll verify when you're going to graduate, your classes, your transcript, and then they will send it over to us for admission review. We have a rolling admission, so that means that once we receive your application, within a few weeks, you will receive an admission decision until our seats are full. The date does close on June 1st. So if you are thinking about applying for this fall, I would highly encourage you to start that process immediately. If you're looking for fall 2026, that I believe opens up in August. And then the other thing is we get this question, volunteering and shadowing experience is not required. It is highly recommended. We do not have an interview process. So our prerequisites, as I kind of mentioned, this is pretty standard. Anatomy and physiology 1 and 2 with a lab, abnormal psychology, an adult, adolescent, child, or lifespan development course, and social science electives. This is where actually some of our health science majors get hung up on. It cannot be a health science course, it cannot be a health course. It needs to be a psychology course, a sociology course, a women and gender study, economics, history, political science, archaeology, but it cannot be philosophy. It can be anthropology, but it can't be public health or health related. Those don't fulfill your social science requirements. They're a great foundation for you as you enter a healthcare field, but they do not count as your social science elective. And that is just something I like to share because I've run into several instances where sometimes they might have all their science electives and missing that social science elective. And finally, statistics. Any of the courses you might be missing, you can also take the underlying courses we offer through our School of Professional Studies, and those are online and asynchronous. The only thing is you have to have completed your prerequisites by August 1st, and you can get an admission decision with up to 3 prerequisite courses missing. So that's always something I like to mention. Financial aid. We do offer financial aid. Hopefully you've already submitted your FAFSA and just waiting to hear back. Merit scholarships are automatically, you're automatically considered when you submit your application for up to $8,000. And I would encourage anyone to set up an affordability appointment with our student financial services representatives, because they can give you some guidance, some insight into, all things loans and other opportunities for financing your education. I would encourage you, if you have not, to schedule a visit, either our Worcester or Manchester. You can do the QR code. These are great opportunities to see the campus. We usually have a student admission ambassador giving you a tour, and that you can hear from a student perspective, get all of your questions answered, and you can kind of see if it's the right fit for you. And see all about our campus life. Finally, you can take a screenshot. Again, my name is Tina Hills. I'm the admission counselor for the OT program. You could check us out on YouTube. That's a great way to learn a little bit more about the school from a student's perspective or other events we may have hosted. And you can also click on that link. Again, that's the link for visits and information. I'm gonna begin the Q&A portion. So I want to actually just talk and hand it over to Colleen first, and why you chose MCPHS.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I was not planning on going into OT. As I mentioned earlier, I was a psychology major. I was also a criminology and philosophy double minor. So going into this, I had all my social science courses. I was missing those anatomy ones. So when I first looked into applying, I was still doing my prerequisites. And so MCPHS first stuck out to me because I could apply while I was still taking those courses because I was going to finish by August 1st. And so I knew that I could get that decision while still in my courses. So after I had decided to apply, I came for the open house. And I think what really stuck out to me was the close-knit community. I went to a very small college. It was about 2,400 undergrad. And that sense of support, especially from the professors, and it now being in the cohort, I can definitely attest to it. You're not a number, you are a name and a person. And they really care about you and your success and creating wonderful OTs to enter this field. And I feel like I could feel that going into it. Something that was funny was I remember the tour guide, Emily, the OT student at the time who took us that day on the open house. And my mom said to me, I could see you doing that. And just a couple weeks ago, I was. And so it really felt like a very full circle moment and just really reassured me that this was the right place for me.
How about you, Callie?
I chose MCPHS because I like that it was healthcare centered, and everyone that goes to this school is so driven and they really like have a focus on their career. So I want to be surrounded by that. And then the OT school specifically, again, like Colleen said, that it's very, since it's a smaller school than other schools, and the class size is still relatively small, you really get to know your classmates and your professors really well. And that like peer support has been really beneficial for me.
Sorry, what about you? Coming all the way from the West Coast.
People ask me why I moved across the country all the time, and I don't know. I felt like it. But when I was looking at OT schools, some things that really stuck out to me about MCPHS when I toured was how much the professors cared and like how much they wanted to talk to me compared to other schools where it was really just like the students giving you the tour would talk to you. But when I toured here, like the professors were so involved and like that really mattered to me. And then also other schools I was looking at, you didn't really have any autonomy or like any choice over where you would go for your field work, but here you have some choice. You get to pick like your top 5 locations. And so that was really important to me to just have some control over that process. And then another school that I was looking at, you were enrolled in full-time classes while in full-time field work during that last section, and that seemed like a lot, but I liked the structure of the classes, the semester schedule. I'm phrasing that totally wrong, but
No, we get it.
yeah, so those were the primary reasons.
Great, thank you. We get this actually question a lot. Professor Dowling, can you talk a little bit about the difference between a master's and a doctorate in OT and
Absolutely.
what that means for
Sure.
your career?
What it means is you come to MCPHS in the accelerated master's program and you leave with a master's degree, which gives you the fortitude to earn an income and be an amazing practitioner in the field of occupational therapy. There was some thoughts that there was going to be a mandated transition to the OTD by 2027. I, as the representative for the state of New Hampshire to the AOTA, can attest to you that that is not a mandate. And if we become a doctoral program or master's degree programs do not any longer exist, you're grandfathered in with an outstanding degree and you're capable of just getting out there and having an income with your master's degree in occupational therapy. So there's really no big difference other than honestly a little bit more schooling for those who are going for their doctorate and perhaps some more financial burden to do so. But you're going to be an amazing practitioner with your master's through MCPHS.
Exactly. And from what I understand as well, that when someone is going for a job with a master's and a doctorate, it is the exact same pay. You will not be offered a more significant salary because you have a doctorate versus a master. And it is really, the master's is geared for you not only to get out in the workforce quicker, but you are a practicing clinician where sometimes with a doctorate, it's a little bit more research based. So that's another kind of advantage as well. Do we have any other questions? I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. Does anyone have any last thoughts before we sign off? Great. I want to thank everybody for attending this evening. Again, if you have questions, please reach out to me. And you can email me or shoot me a text or a phone call. I'm happy to work with you for the OTCAS process, talk about your prerequisites, any questions you might have about the program. I want to thank everyone for joining us and thank our esteemed panel for joining us this evening. Please be on the lookout July 9th and July 9th on our Worcester campus and July 16th on our Manchester campus. We're going to be doing a summer barbecue. So that's really exciting and something to look forward to and another chance for folks to get on campus. So thank you and have a wonderful evening.